Good morning and Assalamu alaikum, my dears. I hope you all are doing well. So, what did we do in the last class? I think in the last class, I had continued. Last class meaning it would be the second class of deconstruction. I had given you two terms, decentering and deconstructing a sign. So I think you are fairly well, you have acquainted yourself with the terms. Decentering, how the center significance is not there, how the structure is no longer there. I gave you the example of marriage, the democracy, etc. And then we came on to deconstructing a sign, deconstruction of sign, what Derrida means by deconstruct. Okay, so deconstruction of a sign, how the signifier and signified goes on shifting. The endless shift of meaning, that is what was meant by deconstruction of the sign. So I gave you the example of how when you say the word cat or you hear the word cat, the signifier that comes to your mind, and then what else comes to your mind. So this kind of shifting in meaning, there is no fixed signified for a signifier. And I had given the example of the lion, how the image of a lion or the word lion brings to your mind a certain signifiers which keeps on transferring from one to the other. So that was what we covered in the last class. So now moving on. So today's term that I've taken is logocentrism. Now, basically, logocentrism is a term that was coined by the German philosopher Ludwig Klages in the early 1900s. It basically refers to the tradition of the Western science and philosophy that regarded, what can we say, the desire or that regarded words and language as the fundamental expression of an external reality. That is, importance is given to words. Importance is given to the medium that is used. In other terms, we can say logocentrism. The logos, it refers to reason. Reason versus emotion. When you have reason and emotion, how reason is given prominence. Centrism meaning that becomes the centrism that is focused. I hope you remember post-colonialism, we spoke of Eurocentrism, how the European culture was centered, how everything was seen from the European point of view. So here logocentrism, the logos is given significance. Now what do logos mean? Logos could mean words, language. On another level, it can refer to the intellect, reason, which says logos is epistemologically superior and that there is an original irreducible object which the logos represent. So the logos, that is reason, intellect, giving more importance to reason rather than emotion, giving importance to thoughts rather than feelings. This kind of concept is what is basically logos. Logos can also be seen as speech, the term for speech. So according to Derrida, logocentrism is the attitude that logos meaning the Greek term for speech, thought, law, reason. So that is the central principle of language and philosophy. So according to the Western science and philosophy from the time of Plato, we have how this reason is given importance. Plato and all always focused on the concept of, what can we say, the content, the morality behind a work. So that kind of concept, how reason, how what can we say, thought is given importance rather than the emotion. So here it can be extended to also refer to a speech. Logos also represent, it is a Greek term for speech. So logocentrism, in a view according to Derrida, it means that speech is given central importance. Speech is important rather than writing. So as literature students, what would you say? What would you think that speech and writing, which would you consider the most important? On one level, when we are asked that question, we always have this feeling in our mind that, of course, speech is important, right? Why would speech be important? Because speech is something, what can we say, spontaneous, a person speaking something rather than writing something, speaking something. So it is very authentic, very real. Writing a written text, it could be written by anyone. It is unanchored in the sense, unless you read it, there is no meaning. Something written somewhere in a piece of paper. So imagine something is written in a piece of paper, and the concept here is that it does not have meaning unless someone reads it, right? So that kind of a concept. So logocentrism viewed speech is superior or central to language. What is most important aspect of language? It's speech. Now focusing to what's written there, according to logocentrism, speech has the positive qualities of originality, center, and presence. So in speech, there is a presence, there is a speaker. So that is more authentic, I told you, very original. And there is a center, the speaker is there. So that is what is meant by logocentrism, a term coined by German philosopher Ludwig Claes. And Derrida has taken this term and analyzed it. And he is saying that logos representing speech represents thought, reason. So it is the central philosophy of language and philosophy. Actually, Derrida is critiquing this concept of logocentrism. He is not supporting logocentrism. That you have to be clear. So logocentrism, when you understand the term logocentrism, it is not a term that was introduced by Derrida. It is not a concept that is favored by Derrida. Derrida, as a philosopher, he is critiquing the concept that the Western science and philosophy till now, they have been giving importance to thought, reason, and speech. Now here it is said that logocentrism, if we have a few more points on logocentrism, it says that language originates as a process of thought which produces speech, and that speech then produces writing. Okay, so you see the hierarchy there. Your importance, what comes in your mind, it is what produces speech. It is very authentic. Now this speech can later produce writing. So writing is always secondary, whereas speech is always considered primary. Okay. Now logocentrism thus asserts that writing is a substitute for speech and that writing is an attempt to restore the presence of speech. Okay. So logocentrism, according to that concept, writing is only a substitute. It is only secondary. It is only the second position that writing has compared to speech, and it is an attempt to restore the presence of speech. That is, where speech cannot be present, there you have writing. If a person cannot go and tell something to someone, he writes a letter. That is speech. Writing is an attempt to restore. So where speech cannot be, there writing comes in. So it is like, very secondary position, like, first and second hand position. So second hand position is only given to writing. Writing only has secondary or derived status ever since Plato. So we are speaking of the Western philosophy ever since the time of Plato. Now Derrida, as a philosopher, he has always been interested in this particular opposition, that is between writing and speech. We all know Derrida has always given importance, or he has always been interested in this concept of, binary oppositions. In what can we say, in structuralism we have the binary oppositions, and in Derrida deconstruction, you have how he what can we say, disputes this concept of binary opposition. He says there is no binary opposition. Nothing is the opposite of the other. One should not be given importance over the other. So in writing and speech, it's a binary opposition. It is an opposition, and writing is given only the secondary position compared to speech. Now here is where Derrida introduces the concept, or he introduces the term archwriting, which is actually a word of French origin, which means arc écriture. Arc écriture, it is the French term, and that is the term that Derrida has coined, arc écriture. Derrida's works are all available in French, and it has been translated to other languages. He is a French philosopher. So the term is arc écriture, which is translated into English as arch writing. Okay, so he is trying to reorient, or what can we say, restate the relationship between speech and writing. Now, what is arc writing? It refers to a kind of writing that precedes both writing and speech. Got the idea? It is a kind of writing that precedes both writing and speech. Arc writing is, in a sense, a language that is already there before we use it. So before, even the spoken language comes, there is a form of writing present, and that writing is called arc writing. Okay, so it refers to a kind of writing that precedes both writing and speech. Now, how do you understand this concept of arc writing? Now, you have the theory with you. What is arc writing? It is a kind of writing that precedes both writing and speech. I'll give you a very simple example. Suppose a child, he calls his father daddy for the first time. Okay. So logocentrism, according to logocentrism, speech is important because the child first learns, or he first speaks a word, right? A baby first starts speaking and then only starts writing. No babies will start with writing first, right? So speech comes always first. So this child, or this baby child, he called his father daddy, maybe at the age of 1 or 1.5 or maybe 2 years old. He's calling his father daddy. It's the first time he's calling his father daddy. So speech is coming there first. So speech is important. But according to arc writing, Derrida argues that the child, in his brain, someone has already written, or someone has already, imprinted in his mind this image of his father, and the concept that this man with the beard and mustache is his father. It is his daddy. So it is already written in his brain. That is why he had called that person daddy. I hope you got the concept here. So an idea that is imprinted on your brain, or that is imprinted in a system. Okay, when you speak of the structure as such, the whole society as a system first. So something is already imprinted there. This man, he did not suddenly become the daddy because the child calls him the daddy, right? This man was his daddy, and this concept was imprinted in his brain first. It was written in his brain first. This writing is called arc writing. So arc writing came first. So arc writing is of supreme importance there. You got the idea? So this arc writing is that concept of a writing that precedes both writing and speech. So the child does not speak first and then write. He already has something written in his brain, and that writing is called arc writing. Okay, now we'll have a small bio about Jacques Derrida. It's a French name, so you don't pronounce it Jacques Derrida. You can pronounce it that way if you want to get the spelling right. You want to, have that in your brain, in your mind, so that you don't get it wrong. It's actually pronounced as a French name that's pronounced Jacques Derrida. So he's an Algerian-born French philosopher. He analyzes the nature of language, writing, and meaning. And he was a highly influential philosopher in the 20th century. These are basic concepts that you already know. He is the principal exponent of deconstruction. He coined the term as a fundamental of examining the conceptual distinctions or binary oppositions, as I told you. His contributions were welcomed by structuralists of the era. He led a movement beyond structuralism that is called post-structuralism. Now here he is, skeptical, or he was doubtful about the possibility of a general science of meaning. Here we have this concept about the signifier and signified deconstructing the sign. So how he changes structuralism, or how he takes structuralism to a new level. The new level is called post-structuralism. Now, some of his major works, three of his major works that came out in the year 1967 are Writing Indifference of Grammatology, Speech and Phenomena. He has, analyzed and taken the writings, and he has, concepts from the great psychoanalysts, Freud, Husserl, Jean-Jacques Rousseau. So he has used all their concepts in building his own new concept. In 1972, Dissemination and Margins of Philosophy, another work. Glass, 1974. It's an experimental work in which he is analyzing the philosophy of Hegel and Jean Genet. I hope you learned a balcony. Yeah, Jean Genet. One might distinguish in Derrida's work a period of philosophical deconstruction from a later period of focusing on literature. So he was mainly a philosopher, and he also focused on literature. Now, his later work, and he also, his later works took up a lot of other issues like the legacy of Marxism, psychoanalysis, etc. Other essays had many things of political, legal, ethical issues, aesthetics, literature. His autobiographical work, Circumfession. Again, it's a portmanteau term that he has used, Circumfession. That is his autobiographical work, 1991. Some of the criticisms that were leveled against Derrida was that he was very anti-rational, nihilistic opponent of serious philosophical thinking. Nihilism means, what can we say? To make something nullify jiya. So that is nihilism. So his ideas remain a powerful force in philosophy and myriad other works. So these are some of the major works and the concepts you have to know, or you have to just know about Derrida. You can use in your introductions, and when you understand the concept of deconstruction. Another important writer that we'll be studying today is Roland Barthes. He was born in the year 1915 and died in the year 1980. Full name Roland Gerard Barthes. He was also a French essayist and social literary critic. So the difference here is that he was not a philosopher. So that is how you have to understand. Derrida was a philosopher. One important interesting fact about Derrida was that he was a celebrity in his time. When he started all his works and deconstruction and all, he became a very very much like a film star. He became a very popular celebrity. Though academician, he was also regarded as a celebrity. He had many women friends, and also he was popular in that way. Now, coming to Roland Barthes, his writings on semiotics established structuralism and new criticism as leading intellectual movements. Next, he went to the University of Paris, studied grammar and philosophy. 1976, he became the first person to hold the chair of literary semiology at the Collège de France, that is, the University of France. Literary style was stimulating, eccentric, obscure. Theories were very influential. He was influenced by writers like Lacan, Foucault, and Derrida. He also influenced them, and they influenced him. Now, some of the major works by Roland Barthes. His first book, Writing Degree Zero, a literary manifesto that examines the arbitrariness of language, mythologies, critical essays, Eiffel Tower and other mythologies. In all these works, he examines mythology, that is the hidden assumption behind popular cultural phenomena. His work also on Racine, it viewed texts as a system of science. S bar Z, a line-by-line semiological analysis. It's a work that came out in the year 1970, in which he analyzed a short story and the role of the reader in constructing a narrative. So the concept of the importance is given to the reader. So he does a line-by-line analysis, semiological analysis, meaning a kind of, studying the structure, science and all. And then he analyzed this short story. And he published an anti-autobiography in 1975. Its name is Roland Barthes by Roland Barthes. It's called an anti-autobiography. It's a new concept. It's where you write an autobiography from another point of view. Anti-autobiography, it's a new concept that was formed. Anyway, that is his so some of the major concepts you have to know about Barthes and Derrida. Another important, very fun fact you have to, you can know about Derrida was that I read this somewhere. He was, because he was very popular in his time, he became a very, star figure, kind of a celebrity. And he was given this, universities give these doctorates. So one such university was giving him some doctorate or honorary degree or honor. And many philosophers came together, and many of them filed a petition against it. And they fought that Derrida should not be given that honor because he is saying all this rubbish. He is deconstructing what everyone else is saying. So he is saying this, his philosophy of deconstruction itself is very foolish, and it should not be promoted. So Derrida should not be given the award. 19 of the world's leading philosophers came forward and filed a petition against giving Derrida that honorary award, that honorary degree. And later it was put to vote and all, and Derrida won the award. So that is, many criticisms came up against Derrida because he put forth such a theory, deconstruction. It is not easily, you cannot easily understand. It's not something you will easily accept also. Okay, so I think that will do for today's class. I think with one more class, we'll be coming to an end. I'll be introducing two more writers, key figures in deconstruction, and also the remaining a few terms that you should be knowing. Okay, so thank you, girls. Keep smiling.